Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So today what we're going to do is create a look using Majority Mary Kay makeup. First, I'm going to start out by filling in my brows using the Brow Definer pencil. This color is brunette. It only comes in this one color. However, I feel like it's pretty universal. Most people don't want their brows too dark or too light. I feel like this one is a happy medium. So what I'll do is start by filling in underneath the bottom, drawing those nice straight lines and creating the look that I want for my brow. Once I get to a pretty good place and I'm satisfied with the shape, I'll go ahead and move on to the next brow and do the same thing. Just start filling it in, creating the shape that I like. So now it's time to go ahead and fade those brows out. You don't want to have any harsh lines in the front of the brow just to make sure it looks more natural. So you want to fade that out, as well as making sure you don't have that weird boxy look going up in the front. Of course, it looks a little bit different, so I used my mirror, and of course it is one of my favorite Mary Kay compacts. They don't even sell those anymore, which sucks, but yeah. So now we are ready to move toward carving out those brows. I use the Perfecting Concealer, which is also a under eye corrector. This one is really great because of the coverage it has as a concealer. It really works well. So what I do is go in and carve out the shape that I want underneath the brow, and then drag that concealer down onto the eyelid. What it does is it acts as a primer for the eyeshadow whenever we get to that step later on in the video. So once I move to the opposite side, I like to use a unibrow look to make sure that my brows are lined up evenly, which is why I drag the concealer over to the opposite side. And I'll only use concealer underneath the bottom with the lighter color because I like more of a natural look. So on the top of the brow to define it, you'll see me later in the video use my foundation. So at this point, I am finished with my brows and I am ready to start with adding foundation. First, I'm going to put on my foundation primer, which has a sunscreen SPF 15. And I believe that having SPF in your foundation, primer, foundation, moisturizers, etc. is very important because we need to make sure we are protecting our skin. So now I'm going to take out my two compacts. One contains matte colors, the other contains shimmer colors. I like to start off with a real solid base using matte colors first. So that's the palette I'm gonna start out with. The two big squares you see are gonna be bronzers. Sometimes I like to use those as shadows too, just depends on the occasion. So the first color that I'm gonna use all over is gonna be hazelnut, and that is gonna be my color to set a real nice base. So now that we're finished with the hazelnut, I'm gonna move on to using sweet cream. That color is gonna go right underneath the brow as well as a little bit blended into the hazelnut. You wanna be sure to blend those colors together because you don't want any hard, harsh lines. Okay guys, so I feel like I have to put a little plug in here. I don't necessarily stick to doing just one eye at a time. Sometimes I switch back and forth. Sometimes I do the full eye. I guess it just depends on how I'm feeling. But yeah, I'll be switching back and forth depending on how it goes. So now we're gonna move on to the shimmer compact. Out of that one, we're gonna use Sweet Plum. And that color is gonna go into the creases of the eye to give it a smoky effect. So now that we have a good place with the Sweet Plum, we're gonna move on to using Amber Blaze, which is actually one of my favorite colors. We're gonna use that one on the lid in the same technique as you would use it in doing a cut crease. The only difference is this won't be as defined as a cut crease because we're not adding that concealer onto the lid first. So now we're at a pretty good place with the Amber Blaze where I feel like there's enough of the shadow there. So I'm gonna get a different brush and use that brush to help with blending the two colors together. That way it makes for a better transition from the Sweet Plum to the Amber Blaze, and that there aren't any hard lines or where the shadow just looked like it's slapped on there. So now we're just gonna repeat the same process on the opposite side, and remember we're using Sweet Plum and Amber Blaze. At this point, I could see the vision coming together, so we're gonna move on to using Moonstone. Moonstone has a little bit of a crystal type color to it, so I'm using that one as a highlighter right at the brow bone. I'll also later on in the video go in with my actual highlight and use it there as well. I used Moonstone first thinking that I would love the transition from the Sweet Plum, but in turn I found that if I used the Moonstone and then put Rose Gold on top of it, it gave a way better transition. On to foundation. So I use Fenty Beauty. It matches perfect with my skin. I use the Pro Filter 310 Soft Matte. I do have oily skin, which is why I have the Soft Matte formula. What I love about this foundation is that you don't need a whole lot. A little does go a long way. So I'm going to use my brush and begin spreading the foundation all over, and of course working that foundation toward my neck as well as closer to my ear. So remember earlier how we talked about that unibrow? At this point, I'm going to use my brush to get rid of that line in the middle, and also just make sure that the foundation is as close to my hairline as possible. When I get happy, guys, I dance. I dance a lot. So now we're gonna go ahead and cut out the top of the brow. What I did was put a little bit of the foundation onto this brush, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut out and carve the shape at the top of the brow using just my foundation. So now my sweet little baby is awake and he's being mean, but that is my sweet boy. He's gonna run away. He'll be back later though. Alright, now back to the under eye corrector. I'm gonna use that one as my highlighter, just like I used it as the concealer underneath the brow. I'm gonna use that one underneath each eye. On the forehead, bridge of the nose, on Cupid's bow, basically everywhere that you want to highlight, that's where you want to put that lighter color concealer. And again, Tristan is in the room and doesn't want to be in the camera, so I'm just trying to blow him some kisses and play with him, but he's still being mean at this point. So now I'm gonna use my beauty blender, which Mary Kay does sell those as well. Using my beauty blender, I'm gonna go ahead and blend out that concealer underneath the eyes using gentle pats and pressing that product out. So I feel like I still have a few hard lines left, but I'm not really too concerned about it because I can come back and buff those out later. So I think I'm gonna just go ahead and be finished with that highlight for now. And I did forget the Cupid's bow, so I'm gonna go ahead and add that in. Although I hate the way it looks after I blend it in because I feel like I look like I need chapstick. Okay, I know I am not the only one who experiences this. I absolutely hate the way that looks after I finish. So now I'm going to use my foundation brush and go ahead and buff out that line from the highlighter. If you ever experience this issue, just use your foundation brush and it'll help you get that smoother transition from your foundation into your highlighter. That way you don't have those hard lines. So here I made a big boo-boo, guys. I forgot to show you that I was using the Mary Kay Translucent Loose Powder to set my highlight. It's very important that you go over any area where you use any cream. You go over those areas with a powder. That way you can set those areas where those colors are. Another boo-boo, guys, I forgot to show what I was using as my contour, but what I'm using to contour is the bronzing powder by Mary Kay. The bronzing powder has a dewy luminous finish, which I feel like is perfect because once you add on foundation on top of this to kind of bring everything together, it gives it a really beautiful finish. It is time for some eyeliner. I like to use the liquid eyeliner pen in black. I like it because it has a pointy mesh tip So it's perfect for when you're trying to get that really, really pointy wing. Whenever I started doing the line, I kind of noticed that I started off wrong. However, I feel like regardless of if you do mess up as soon as you put it on there, there is a way to fix it. It's always fixable. Catch myself sometimes like holding my breath when I'm doing my makeup, and it's usually when I'm carving out my brows and doing my wing liner. Like every single time I find myself holding my breath because I do not want to mess those two things up. So now I'm gonna go in with my brush to dust off any of the translucent powder that's still there, as well as going in and kind of blending in my contour with some of that translucent, just again to make sure everything is nice and smooth and has a natural look and transitions well. So now I'm going to go in and use kohl underneath the eye to line. I like using kohl as my liner because it gives a great line as a liner, but it's not as hard of a line as it would be if I was to use the pen or using a liner pencil. It gives it a softer look, which is why I go to using kohl versus using a liner. And after I put kohl underneath my eyes, I always like to take whatever color it is that I used on my lid and add that color on the bottom of the eye as well. I just feel like it gives it that little bit of extra pop. And the color I used at the top is Amber Blaze. So I'm gonna get another brush and use that Amber Blaze at the bottom as well and just blend it into the kohl. That way it makes for a better transition. So what I'm going to do is use a brush to kind of drag out that amber glaze into the corners of my eye, just to make sure that it transitions from the bottom line up to the top and inner corner of the eyes. Okay, so now my little baby is in a good mood and he is ready for his camera time. Alrighty, on to our foundation powder. I use the mineral powder in beige 1.5. Don't judge me. Yes, I did say beige 1.5. Blame it on the genetics. So what we're gonna do is blend in our look and just make everything cohesive by putting that powder everywhere. So I slightly freaked out when I saw this brush come into my face, but I let him do it anyways, even though it had that bronzing powder all over it. I just prayed that it would leave a big mark on my forehead. It didn't. So in my next Magic Compact are my blushes. Those are Shy Blush and Sparkling Cider. Sometimes I use them separately, but I enjoy using them together. I love the look I get when I use them together. And he's back. This time he dipped it in a few things. Had a little eyeshadow on it, had a little foundation on it, had a little bit of everything on there. But I survived again. So now I'm gonna go ahead and start with the mascara. I use the Mary Kay Ultimate Mascara. I love this mascara because first of all, it's suitable for sensitive eyes. I wear contacts and I poke myself in the eyes a lot with mascara, and I found that even when I poke myself in the eye, I don't like completely mess up my contact lenses. But other like benefits of this mascara is like it's extremely volumizing. It has like an all-in-one formula that creates this like super big bold lash, and it separates the lashes. It does last all day, which is why this one is one of my favorites. And now we're gonna go ahead and set our look using the makeup finishing spray. So this next product is not a Mary Kay product, but I have fallen in love with it. It is the Mineral Effects Baked Bronzer in Summer Kiss. This one is really beautiful because it gives you that nice natural glow. And of course, I love anything that looks more on the natural side. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a touch of that bronzer on to give me that glow. I'm also gonna use it on the bridge of my nose, on the Cupid's bow, as well as on the brow bones. So now we're going to use the lip liner in light nude to go ahead and line the lips to prep for the lipstick. now that I'm finished with my lip liner, I'm gonna go in with Bashful You, which was one of the Mary Kay semi-matte gel lipsticks. I love the semi-matte gel lipsticks because even though they are matte, they do not make your lips dry, and you don't have to add anything on top of them to give you that added moisture. And of course, a look is not complete without lashes. So I am using the Sephora Collection Fringe number 4. I love those because they have that double layer of lashes. So it finishes out the lashes like really full and thick and beautiful. I love those lashes. As I'm looking at myself, I do not like the lipstick. So I go over it with Rich Truffle, and I feel like it added the depth that I was looking for. So yeah, we are gonna definitely use that combination of colors. So at this point, I'm basically done and super excited because I am ready. And of course, a heavy dance has to come in.